Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Welcome back to Bitch Call Your Sponsor. I'm Sam.
And I'm Misty.
Hello, Misty.
Hello, Sam.
Shall we do our primary purpose for the podcast?
For the podcast, yes.
For the podcast.
Our primary
purpose
is for Misty,
is for Misty and Sam
to grow their friendship
and
maybe help others.
Just maybe. Okay, so the topic that I am bringing is actually this book I just read. It's really been around for ages. It's almost as like, a return to love. I just don't think it's had as much play though. It's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. It's Deepak Chopra, and the 7 laws, I'm going to read them to you. So it's all the law of pure potentiality, giving and receiving, karma, least effort, intention and desire, detachment, and dharma. So those are the 7. I wanted to focus on 2 actually. 1 is giving, receiving, and then 2 is detachment, which, these are, for me, they're spiritual laws. Like it's stuff that I've experienced in my own, as in my own travels, and also that are reflected to me back in the steps, and so for me, detachment is, I relate to step 3, where it's like when I finally let go, other things can actually happen versus me controlling, manipulating, and all of those types of things, the actor, the director, the producer. And then the giving and taking, I think starts with 1, with, being honest, and or receiving honesty. But mostly for me, that happens in 8 and 9, where I begin to formulate what a true partnership can actually look like, where it's listening and speaking, not just speaking and manipulating. So I'll leave it there and see if anything's coming up for you.
I love it. This is a great topic. And I do remember this book. I remember trying to get through it. A lot of it resonating with me, but just, I think it was too big of a book at the time I picked it up.
No.
And I love the law of detachment. To me, that's my secret weapon. That's my superpower, is that I know once I detach from caring about the outcome of a situation, I've won. And it is something now, I think it talks about in Keys of the Kingdom, where we used to run from responsibility, we find ourselves successfully shouldering it. And I remember thinking at the time when I read that, like, I will never be one of those people that wants to successfully shoulder responsibility. Like, I ran 100 miles an hour away from it, even at 10 years of sobriety, right? But yeah, now detachment is one of those things that I crave, that sweet surrender when I can go, hey, I let go of the attachment to the results. There. It's easy from here on out.
Totally side question. This is probably another episode, but is that your favorite story or one of your favorite stories, Keys of the Kingdom?
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
I'm going to reread that today. Yes, the responsibility, this detachment, I always share what you talk about is this sweet surrender. And I remember one time I called and we had a conversation about speaking at meetings, and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I hate sharing. Like, I'm not a effing circuit speaker, and like, I was finding myself taking sips of my drink after saying certain things, knowing that that was the punchline and that was where the soundtrack was going to enter, and it's, me talking to the quote unquote person that's, whatever I would say. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, literally, it was like a routine. And I was like, I don't feel connected to anything. I feel like I'm like blank, And I remember you sharing, your routine, which I think has shifted actually. Now it's coming back to me. It's like, no, you changed it up. I didn't get the memo. But you at the time had shared that you go to the bathroom and, say, use me as you get down on your knees, say, use me as you see fit, which for me is like very 7-step, but like this thing of like me surrendering, and the example you gave was, to me that I will never forget that I always pass on is, they may like me, they may not like me, they may laugh, they may not, they may, soundtrack may come in or not, but it's like whatever happens is supposed to happen. And I just need to show up and get out of my script and get out of my whatever those things are that I think make me safe, but actually block me from being a human.
Yes. Yes. And so much of it goes back to the Dr. Bob quote, right? Where he says that humility is a place that he can go within him and be at peace, whether he's being praised or vexed. And that he can be alone with his creator in a deep sea of calm that no chaos outside of himself can disrupt it. And that's what we're all looking for. That's what we all want. We want a place inside of ourselves that is safe, that we can be at peace, even if the husband's mad at us, even if the best friend didn't return the call, even if the job interview didn't go like we wanted. We want that place.
This detachment stuff, is very, for me is like the very 3, where I think it does say in our book in 3 that we needed to stop playing God. And, that is a role that I have become so comfortable with. For me, I know I'm definitely attached and in that reprising my role, as it were, when it's I'm in the conditional. They should have. Can you believe they could have? And I thought what I would have done, and it's like that narrative is so strong. And just turn on any quote unquote reality television show, and that's the whole storyline. It's like people are incensed, that people are being a certain way because that's not how I would have, or they shouldn't have done that. And can you believe, it's literally, that's the whole premise, and without that, it would make for very boring, there's no drama in like, oh, me taking full responsibility for my part. Like, that's like, what is that? That's not even TV. That's not entertainment. That's like, I don't even see that as like a growth, like the Growth Channel or Oprah's network. Like, I don't even see that as actually being compelling conversation. Do you?
No. And I do say that ACA has ruined my watching of The Real Housewives. I mean, I've been watching Real Housewives while I was sober, no problem, and, I would call it like a psychological case study of how not to be narcissistic or appear selfish and self-centered or any of these things. And then I get a little ACA and I'm like, oh man, don't know. Like now I know that this girl's childhood was awful and that's why she talks in the baby voice. And now, it ruins it all.
God, that baby voice. I know it all too well, where it's like that's where they were frozen or something happened, right? Like that. It's, oh God, it's really, it's very sad. It's really, when I get really connected to it that way and see it that way. This other spiritual law of like give and take, I relate it to 8 and 9 in the sense of I'm listening. I am more aware of, where my resentments and fears and stuff get in the way, where it's impacting. It's for me, the beginning of practicing impacting this like dynamic less. Has your experience been the same, or where are you for give and take? Like, where does that come up, or how does that reflect itself to you?
Can you tell me more about that law? Like what
Yeah.
I don't
So
think I
whenever,
understand it.
yeah. So I used to be like a devotee of, yoga, this one practice, Bikram, prior to all of that scandal. And I used to have a teacher that used to say, what I give is what I get. Right. And so if I'm giving love, kindness, calm, peace, and joy, that tends to be what's reflected back at me versus if what I remember is there was this guy that used to come into my home group and it was like so angry, right? Like he was on fire and no one would sit next to him. In fact, people would move would reconfigure the chairs that were set in order to not be next to him, right? So like that for me is like the extreme example. Like he's seething with resentment and anger and like people were legit afraid of him. Not that he actually didn't do anything. He was just, you could feel it
Pain
was
body.
palpable. Yeah, that was the pain body. And
Yeah,
so
you can feel it.
yeah, that's kind of how it is. And I guess for me, it's like the core of this principle is like it's whatever I'm focusing on, right? So like if I'm giving someone the leeway to cut in front of me or pass in front of me in a car is very different energy than me trying to block them out from getting in front of me.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. This is so good. So it goes a lot to what we were talking about with that electromagnetic field that goes out 3 feet from you and that your heart is emanating. So the person that's sitting there that's so angry and nobody wants to sit the chair next to them, they're emanating anger. And then it's almost not, I mean, I like the what I give, I get that. But let's just take this guy who's being angry, right? He's going to go out and he's going to filter that anyone that talks to him is coming at him anger. So like he could go into the 7-Eleven and ask for, where your soda's located. And when the guy says they're back there, third aisle, he could be like, why is this guy being an asshole to me? So the guy's not even really being an asshole. He's not even getting anger back. But because his radiation is anger, that's all he can see. And whatever you focus grows, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part about it is like Wayne Dyer had a thing that he put this white globe of a light out there and said, this is your higher power. And whatever you put towards your higher power, you're getting back. So you want to put love towards it, you're getting that back. You want to put anger towards it, you're getting that back.
It's I think this law of give and take is really like the filter or what I'm focusing on, right? Like I've been working with a few people on their first thorough fourth step, and what's been coming up for me in the fear inventory is whatever I fear that's ultimately what I'm perpetuating.
Yeah, so, and it's also what I'm calling to me to work through.
Yeah. So one of my fears is abandonment, right? And so if I look at it through the lens of when I'm not truly trusting and relying on my higher self, my inner guide, higher power, and I'm just manipulating so that they don't leave me, right? What that actually looks like is I will leave you before you leave me, right? Or I will twist myself into a pretzel based on what I think you need from me so that you won't leave me. So I do both extremes, neither of which are me being in my body and myself.
Yes. Oh my God. I can so relate. And you know what I thought of with this is when I was dating, and I think you remember this, and what helped me one time with a guy that I was very interested in, and I think something must have happened with his phone because he wasn't able to call me. Yeah, I don't know what that was. It was probably something to do with his phone company. It was probably Verizon's fault. I'm pretty sure he was just trying very hard to call me, but it wasn't working. It was very odd. So what I did in order to have peace was I started wishing him all the women in the world.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call.
Send us an email with comments, questions, or concerns bcysponsor@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate 5 stars.